So it's the first of the year, and we have a chance to start fresh. And we've reflected quite recently on the do's and don'ts of real estate. And we've come up with a really good book of what to do and what not to do, both as a seller and a buyer. And so it might offend some people, but forgive us. So welcome to Southern Signature Unlocked. So Justin, would you like to open up?
Sure, and we'll go big right out of the gate. And I guess one of the first things that I kind of learned is buyers are liars. So doing your homework with whenever you get a buyer, figuring out what they say, whether like it's valid, whether it's not, talking to their lenders, talking to all the different people that are in like the backgrounds with them is extremely imperative.
So you mean like when you say buyers are liars, when they say they want an acre of land in the middle of the country and then they show you a house in the middle of the city with a quarter of an acre, are you saying that maybe they mean they want to have trees in their yard and maybe sorting through those truths?
All of the above. A lot of times, it's went back to financing, lack of money or ability to get said money, whether that be like having to sell a house to make the next transaction happen, or perhaps they feel that they can afford 500, but in reality they can only afford 200. So if you don't do your homework in that sense, you've kind of gotten behind the 8 ball to begin with. So getting ahead of that and trying to really determine exactly where they are and exactly what they're not, I think is pretty imperative.
That also, I'm going to add to that, is why they need us. They need a buyer's agent because we can help them through all of those steps and really get them to thinking about the process and the steps, and we're leading them the whole way, holding their hand.
And not to mention, you have to be under buyer agency now to step foot into a house. So, and I think that goes both ways. We can assume that buyers think they know what they want, and it can go the other way. They may think they want to work with us, and then they step foot into a house and they may get cold feet. I mean, how do you approach that whenever someone doesn't want to work with you? Has that ever happened?
I've not had it happen. I guess I have had a couple different times where it didn't feel like that mesh was really there. And so you kind of just go through the motions, if you will, like the first time, feel them out a little bit, especially if it's like a couple. You can kind of determine like which person is driving the interaction and the transaction, if you will.
Wait, Justin, we all know happy wife, happy life.
Yeah. Most of the time. But sometimes some people don't have the voice, and you follow the person that really is the one giving you the feedback, and at least be able to take that feedback and deploy that into your next house that you're going to really kind of delve into.
The next house, like the next showing, or the house that they'll move into?
Well, the next showing, the next one that you're going to do the research on. If you're going to recraft your search, like changing the parameters, things of that nature. If you listen to what the people tell you, they will at least give you some direction in that sense. Even if that initial conversation, everything doesn't line up, apples to apples here. Once you get in and see how they flow through a house. If they spend 90% of their time in the kitchen and 0% of the time in the backyard, but their entire thing was, we have to have a massive backyard that's fenced in and they never go out there, then, it seems like the kitchen is more important than just having the fenced in backyard. So let's focus a little bit more on what this is.
Maybe it's important that they wash their dishes in front of a window that has an attractive backyard.
I like that, yeah.
Truly, because we've all seen it. There's a hook. Every house has a hook. and what gets somebody to commit to the purchase, because it is a roller coaster ride that you go on.
Absolutely.
Candy, I know you've got a story.
Probably got plenty. So I guess the only thing I could advise people is when you hire an agent, try to listen to them. I mean, we're on your side. We're here to help. Like Renee said, you're working with an agent for a reason. If you're a buyer, don't make a extremely crazy low offer just because you want to see what happens. That's not going to work. 99% of the time it's not going to work. You delay the response from the seller a lot of times. You start a transaction off on a bad foot sometimes. I mean, be reasonable with what you're doing, and typically the other side will be also. If you're a seller, the biggest thing we can tell you is take our advice on pricing. I mean, you can't overprice your home $50,000 and expect it to sell overnight, or at all, for a matter of fact. We aren't here to get your home sold quickly because, you think we want that. We're here to help your home get sold so you can move on to that next step in life, not just to get it done quick just because you think that's what we want. We're really here to help. But we can tell you, if you overprice it and you don't take our advice, you're going to have two things. Your home's going to sit on the market, maybe never go under contract. If it does go under contract, you're going to face an appraisal issue, and then you're not going to be happy about that. The comps are there for a reason. We can show them to you. Take our advice, please.
Well, and let me add on to that, because and she may be watching this, and I hope that she's not offended, but I have an absolutely perfect home. I mean, it is absolutely perfect, head to toe, hardly ever been lived in. And it's been on the market a little bit longer. Unfortunately, the next door neighbors had a very significant news incident that happened. And so now it's kind of damaged it. So whenever you have a house on the market, you are subject to lots of things, and you can't control what happens to your neighbors. Mm-mm. And who would have ever thought what would have happened. But now we're kind of like, well, we still have a house to sell. We hope that people forget about what happened next door, but we still have a house.
Is that our St. Christopher, isn't it?
St. Christopher.
Yeah,
We
You could do St. Christopher, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Could. And St. Christopher is one of my favorite stories. I planted St. Christopher in, no. I was digging up a plant to move, because we were going to move, and I decided to plant a new plant. And when I dug the hole, I dug up St. Christopher, and I said, how do I turn away from God's blessings upon my family? And I stuck the plant in the ground, took the St. Christopher inside, called Renee, and we lived there for a couple more years.
I think we need to buy a big old bucket of them and just give them to sellers to bury.
Yes. So Renee, you've been in this business for a long time.
Yes. My best advice to a buyer would be to please watch your credit. Don't go out and buy furniture.
Don't go out to Home Goods and put it on your credit card because of all the things you want to decorate. Do not go buy a car. Just be cool on your stool until after you have closed, and then you
Even don't even go buy refrigerators. Don't put them on hold. Don't do anything.
Don't do
just
because it's going to mess. It'll mess with your loan.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even pay anything off. Just do nothing whatsoever.
If there is a question, ask your lender. Yes.
Well, and I think that this has come up several times so early in the start of this conversation. I think we realize that a lot of these problems are avoided if you have an excellent relationship with your lender.
Right.
And that should be the first step. I mean, call us to say, hey, we're excited about it. And our first words out of our mouth are going to say, here's the lender that you call.
Yeah.
Go ahead and look and see what's your money to have to come to closing with. Can you afford this price range? Is it reasonable to think that the taxes aren't going to throw you off? Because some people moving from the county into the city, that is another caveat that needs to be considered. The HOA, an extra $200 a month. Can you afford that when everything comes to play? So our lender's our best friend.
Yes.
Yes.
And they're here to help you too. They're on your side. Hiding things from them is not going to help you get to the closing table. They're going to find it. Just tell them.
Yes.
And then they can help you work around it. And that's what people think. I think they feel like if we tell them, or if we don't tell them, they may not find out. Yippee. Or if we do tell them, they're not going to help us. That's not true. They want you to close too. So they will do everything they can to help you find a workaround or tell you what to do to fix that.
Yada, yada. But also listen to us when we either, it's ultimately up to the buyers who they use, but like, who they want us to work with. But also listen to us if we have horror stories about internet lenders or something like that. Just listen to what we have to say, the advice that we're giving, and make sure that, if you decide to go against our recommendations, know what you're getting into.
And that's a good point to make, because I've had, in a multiple offer situation, if you have a lender that comes in from out of town, who is this person?
Right.
Who am I working with? All things being equal, it matters who you work with on the lending side, because if you don't, that lender might pull from another pool of appraisers that is not familiar with this area.
That's correct.
That can disqualify you.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking about a current one we have now, that something like that I feel like happened. So
Yeah.
I agree. But again, for sellers, if you listen to your agent, you price your home right, maybe you get more than one offer. You don't get one offer and you have no choice about what that buyer's lender is. You know what I mean?
Right.
So again, we're telling you, we give you advice for good reasons. We ask you, we give you comps for good reasons. If you just work with us, we're not always right, but we have the data we pull from it. If, those kind of things. So it's very, very important to weigh that out. And if you're working with an agent that you trust, and you should be, then they're giving you the right advice on that price. They're not just making it up because, whatever reason.
Candy, you used the term comp. Let's define what a comp is.
That would be similar homes to the one that you're selling or buying that have sold within maybe a 3-mile radius or less. Those are the homes that would be used to come up with the price for your home that you're selling, or to show you the value for the home that you're buying.
So what if it was 2 years ago when it sold?
Well, that wouldn't be a good comp, right? I don't think.
Unless you were dealing with an extremely unique property that you had to go back that far to even find a comp. Maybe at that point you could use that, but
6 months to a year.
Even then I would be very questioning on that.
Because the market changes quick.
Yeah, I mean, think about where we were in early 2023. It was, here's a blank offer, seller. You can tell me what you want.
Reverse, but it is
And now
trying
here
to
we
go
are.
into the
Things
buyer's
are a lot
market versus
different.
the seller's market.
Do you think so?
I think we're getting there.
It's more balanced. Well, I feel like it's more balanced, not necessarily one way or the other. And if a home's priced right, I know I keep harping on that, but truly, if you've got a desirable property and that it is priced properly, you could still see multiple offers. We're not seeing it anywhere near like we were, but the key to get to that is to those things. Price it right. Work with a realtor that make sure the online presence looks good. What was it that we learned when we first got into real estate? The 3 Ps? What?
The 3 pieces of the puzzle.
What were they? Pricing,
appeal,
and
marketing.
Yep. So those are the keys to getting that. We might not see multiple offers, but it'd be certainly nice to have more than one to choose from.
For sure.
I would like that.
Oh, and you know what? Renee has always said this, and I hate it because there's nothing that you can say to back this up. But what do you say? Your first offer
is your best offer.
Good God, yes. Ring it. Definitely. Usually. I've got one now that maybe that wasn't the case, but doesn't matter. Again, we had one offer, and then it goes under contract for the buyer. Now we got a backup offer, which is better than the other one, but
yeah, I mean, as soon as those words fly out of my mouth, immediately we'll get a second offer that trumps the first offer. Oh, absolutely. But it has to be the right scenario. Mm-hmm. 9 times out of 10, though, your first offer is going to be.
Right. And that one was a weird situation. You would almost expect that to happen because we listed the week of Christmas.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We listed.
And also, it could sit on the market for
Things are weird.
weeks, months, whatever. And then as soon as you get one offer, you're going to get two more. You know, that happens a lot.
Like a soul.
Right. Exactly.
I do believe though, people do like to negotiate.
Yes.
So they want to
Yes.
throw that low ball offer out there, especially now that things are cooling off a little bit. So that's not to say that their first initial offer is the one that you take. It's all about negotiating.
Right.
And most of the time you can get them up.
Okay, so say a house is priced at $300,000. It's been on the market for 5 days. Somebody says, "I'm writing offer for $260." What do you think the response is going to be?
No.
What are the comps?
Well, they've all sold within 2 weeks. 98% of list price. But
And especially that.
They ain't that motivated.
Hey, they're
and we
are
just
they
had
still
Christmas,
wanting to sell? Are
and
they trying to get rid of that house? That's what some buyers' mentalities are. And that, I don't care if the home's been on the market 30 days and hasn't got an offer. A seller's not likely to take an offer $40,000 under where it's listed. Period. That's not a smart offer to make.
Well, I like to think of it as percentages. Maybe if you start getting up into higher price ranges,
Right,
40,000 under
exactly.
asking is
We're
not
talking
that much.
about that
If we're talking about
$300,000 range.
that's a significant percentage of the list price.
That also comes back to having an agent, and that agent being good enough to know that they need to have a conversation with the seller or with the seller's agent. Because if you have that conversation, like, look, counter us back. I know this is lowball. We're not trying to offend anybody, but like, just give us something back.
Oh man, people can get really.
Oh, they can.
Yeah.
But you can only you can take a horse to water. You can't make it drink. You can't force your buyers to listen to you. If they want to put an offer in that's that low ball, they're going to put an offer in that's that low ball.
Well, and I think that too, if we listen to our agent, and I always have this conversation, a house, everybody wants a home.
Yeah.
There's all these houses listed, but everybody wants to make that house a home. And part of the listing process, you have to desensitize yourself to realize it's a product on the market. It's not your home where you've brought your children home or celebrated Christmas or where you went to console yourself after a loved one died. It's no longer those things. It is literally something on the shelf.
Yeah.
And if you can desensitize yourself, then you aren't offended at a low ball, and you are able to come back with a reasonable counter at that price. It's a difficult dialogue. And let me just say that the relationship between agents allows for those conversations to be had.
Very much.
And if you don't have an agent that maybe they're new, listen, newbies, fine. Everyone has to communicate, and everyone has to allow that rapport to be set. Renee loves to talk about the rapport between folks, but it is super important.
It is.
Absolutely.
Well, I think personally, from the listing side, well, and from the buyer side too, this is, I guess, a word of advice to the sellers of America. Obviously, we are very pet friendly, and we love our dogs and our furry friends. But I warn folks that before we take pictures, hide all evidence of anything that does not know how to write and read. If it has a heartbeat and depends on you to feed it and is not in elementary school, you need to hide all cat trees, all dog toys, litter boxes, pee pads, dog food. It's okay to have pictures out to tell your story, but there's no need for them to understand their feeding schedule, because again, it will make them feel like that it is still a home, and you're not ready to go through a negotiation process. Also, I've taken buyers through that have never mentioned a cat allergy before, or a pet allergy for that matter, and all of a sudden you walk in and everybody starts sneezing and the throat starts closing up, and then they have to leave. And I don't have a sensitive sniffer, so I don't see these things. I don't smell it. But ultimately, it's because they've picked up on an allergy. Shots fired. It might be always the cat that I'm talking about.
I've had 3 hairless cats staring at me, sitting in the kitchen on top of the cabinets, and being like, I needed to know this. Like, put it in capitals, like somehow to let us know that these creatures are in there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it needs to be a shelf stable product. It doesn't need to be a home, and that includes all pets, unfortunately.
Yep. It's better for your pet too. Not just to have them crated. I mean, I know sometimes that's the only option you got, but you don't know who's coming in and out of your home. You don't know whether these people, I mean, if I'm just being honest, you don't know whether they're nice people or what type of people are coming in your home. So do you really want to leave your, what if they don't like it? What if they, you know, or do something mean to them? That's what I tell people. Think of it like that. Take your dogs with you if you can. Obviously, I don't know how easy it is to take a cat around. It doesn't bother me if a cat's in a home, but it does buyers sometimes. But it is nice to know ahead of time, because speaking for myself, the biggest fear for me is to let somebody's animal out of the house. I'm not chasing your cat or dog down the street. You know, you need to.
You would.
I'm just going to sit there and cry probably because I let your cat or dog out. I would try my best to retrieve your animal, but please put it up. I mean, do us all a favor, because that would be bad. You know, we don't want to do that. You know, that's a bad call to make. We had one time.
I know, I'm thinking of it.
One time we did let a cat in the house that I don't think belonged there. I'm not certain. But we called the agent, and I'm like, hey, I don't really know if this is a cat that wasn't supposed to get out, that got out somehow and come back in, but there's a cat in the house. They might want to find out whether it's theirs or not. I mean, it came in like it owned the place, but we don't remember it ever getting out.
I just don't know how it would have gotten out. I really don't. But then we go to leave, there's a cat at the door wanting to get in.
It matched the description in the listing, because they said there was a gray cat. I'm like, well, you know, we saw one when we walked in, and it went upstairs and disappeared. Most of the time a cat will do that. They don't all sit on the countertop looking at you, but most of the time they will hide.
You won't even know they're there.
You won't even know they're there. But in this case, it greeted us at the door and then went upstairs. I don't know how it would have gotten out. But then when we go to leave, there's one at the front door that comes bolting in. I'm thinking, this is great. Great. And I don't know where it went.
So on the vein of putting things up, you mentioned pictures. Leave the pictures out. I know Renee and I have differing opinions of this.
I'd love to hear.
I personally declutter, yes, but don't hide all your family pictures. You don't want someone walking in there thinking you're a soulless alien. But I know Renee's, we were going through a listing one point and was like, put away all the pictures. So like, what are y'all's thoughts on that? We were going through a listing one point and was like, put away all the pictures. So like, what are y'all's thoughts on that?
I believe that a seller should be allowed to tell their story, because they're going to Google, allegedly, who the sellers are. You know, you're going to do a little bit of research throughout the way. But again, I want to walk into a house where we can figure out that it's who, like, you can understand who lives there. They're not aliens, like aliens. But we also want to see that they have taken the steps to prepare the house in order. So I don't want it to be completely written.
My thought on that piece of it is, personally, like when I listed my house, I didn't want pictures of my personal pictures on the internet. I didn't want them showing up in the rooms and them being posted everywhere. So that's how I felt. So I kept, like, I think one picture up of Carly as a baby, but I didn't want them looking at our family photos. I didn't want them out, on the internet for everybody to see. That's kind of how I feel about it. So I think every seller should be able, just to let them know that, hey, you know, they're going to be, these pictures are out for everybody to see. So if you're comfortable with it, great. But if you're not, just take them down.
I lean more of your thought, and part of that also extends to if I walk into a house and like an entire wall is just covered in pictures, well then if I'm a potential buyer, I want to be able to like envision what my life is going to be on that wall. And if your, you know, family history is all over it, I can't do that. Maybe I want to put a 85-inch TV right here and all I see is, you know, your vacations in Tijuana. Then, you know, that presents a little bit of a block for me and my ability to, and, you know, some people see past everything, but at the same time, you have some buyers that walk into a house and if a wall is red, they walk out because they can't
see past
they can't
the red.
see the gray wall that they want it to be, and it just scares them off. So I think it's sort of, there's a balance of that.
Declutter, take some down, but
Yeah, I definitely I like to have some out there, but not like an excessive amount.
yeah.
Maybe not like a gallery wall.
Right.
Well, you got to think too, like if it's a wall with 12 pictures on it, a gallery wall, then if they're all hung up with nails, that's going to be 12 holes in the walls. And for a buyer that might be crunched on getting their closing costs, you know, paying all their expenses, they're not going to have the money to paint, you know, all the walls in the house. So it's again, that's a responsibility that lies on the seller to make sure that they're preparing their house properly. Well, I think that's some good advice. And we look forward to tuning in again. Hardest lesson we had to learn in our real estate career.